Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. On the 10th of April 2010, a specially upgraded Tupolev 154M aeroplane with the President of Poland, Lech Kaczyński, and the First Lady, Maria Kaczyńska, on board took off from Warsaw to Smolensk. They and other members of the official Polish delegation were due to participate in a ceremony at the Katyn War Cemetery commemorating the 70th anniversary of the atrocity committed there. The aircraft carried 96 people, including senior-most representatives of many state bodies, elite members of Polish society, leaders of religious denominations, high-ranking military personnel, and, of course, the crew. Tragically, the plane crashed while landing at the airport near Smolensk. All the passengers were killed. To explore many of the key events which led up to that horrific crash, we're joined by Mr. Przeperski of the Polish History Museum to share what he has found. Welcome, sir, to TP World, and thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure. Hello.
So let's start with the Katyn massacre, this atrocity. Talk us through what happened there and who was responsible.
Well, in spring 1940, NKVD, that is the secret police of Stalinist Soviet Union, committed massacre, committed actually a genocide, an atrocity on more than 20,000 of Polish officers that were taken prisoners of war during the 1939, the September campaign of, or as we tend to call it in Poland, the war of like the defense war of 1939. The Soviet Union, without actually openly stating the state of war against the Second Polish Republic, some more than 20,000 Polish officers were, as I said, taken prisoners of war. Only then were subjected to some sort of interrogation, then put into the camps for the officers, and then on the early days of March 1940, Stalin himself, together with his comrades from Politburo of the Soviet Communist Party, decided that they were to be killed, and so it happened in spring 1940, which was done silently, secretly, and only in 1943 it was made by Germans, by the way, by the German propaganda. It was made public that such atrocity took place, and over the years it became a crucial problem for Polish memory, for the Polish politics as well. In the spring 1943, just because of the fact that the government, the then emigre government of General Władysław Sikorski, joined Germany to a certain extent with this effort of clarifying what actually happened in spring 1940, and Stalin himself took offense and treated this activity by Polish government as a sort of false pretense to just break the official international relations with the Polish official government.
I want to come to the political implications in just a second, but a couple of other things. I mean, first of all, it wasn't just Polish officers, there were members of the intelligentsia as well, is that correct?
That's it. I mean, they were Polish officers, but the officers of, as it is called in Polish, oficerowie rezerwy, so like those that weren't like vocationally involved as officers only, they were indeed members of intelligentsia, and this very deed was meant to break the backbone of Polish nation, and I don't think it's too big a statement to just summarize it that way. So you're very much right indeed.
Well, that wouldn't be the first time that would have been done, where you take the cream of a society and kill them in the way. But it also wasn't just Katyn Forest, was it? It was done in a number of places by Stalin's regime.
Yes, I mean, to cut long story short, Katyn is used as a sort of a nickname for the set of such places that could have also been mentioned. Bykownia or Katyn, Kharków, Miednoje. Those are the three places that are most commonly referred to as parts of this Katyn massacre. So yes, indeed, there were more such places, and they are symbolically nicknamed, labeled as the Katyn massacre.
So in total, how many would you say were killed?
You mean the numbers?
Yes.
From what we know now, it's more than 20,000 people. 22,000, I think, is the approximate
that's for all of the
number
sites.
for now.
Is that right?
That's for all. Yes, indeed. That's for all
Understood.
the officers killed in spring 1940.
Understood. So now Stalin is offended by accusations that he ordered this, and he's broken off diplomatic relations. What happens next? When does Russia finally admit responsibility for these massacres?
Well, it's only in spring 1990 when Russians, the Soviets then, actually admit that something like this happened, and those are the Soviet troops, those are the members of NKVD that were responsible for all that. Before so, it was, well, it wasn't clearly stated that that someone else did that. There was an effort in 1945 during the Nuremberg trial to just accuse Germans of committing this atrocity. There was this sort of maskirovka operation. So again, an effort of scheming that it was in 1941, in spring 1941, which well proved it's absolutely, we know for a fact that it was not so. And only in 1990, Russians, or Soviets, better to say, admitted that something like this happened. It was spring 1990 when then President Wojciech Jaruzelski, by the way, the former very important communist politician in Poland, came back from Moscow with the actual documents of then Soviet Politburo. He came back to Poland with the papers.
Understood.
But that from then on, this problem became way more complicated, because 10 years later, after Vladimir Putin took over in Moscow, he silently retreated from this official stance, and nowadays it's not that clear in Russia who is actually responsible for that. I mean, the official stance of Russian
Understood.
government is that no one actually knows what happened.
Well, no one's admitting to it. Whether they know or not is another matter, I guess. Now, in terms of the plane crash, between Warsaw and Smolensk, with the president, his wife, and all these dignitaries on board, you've done some work on what happened there. Tell us what you found.
Well, you mean the very April to 2010? What happened then? You mean? I mean, that was a time of significant tension between the president Lech Kaczyński and then Prime Minister Donald Tusk. They were, the internal conflict resulted, among many other quite unfortunate happenings, that Prime Minister visited Smolensk and Katyn in itself on April the 7th, and the president decided to organize a separate excursion on April the 10th, and that was exactly what happened. Was the fatal plane crash of almost 100 people, many of whom were the most important people of Polish politics, of Polish social life. I do remember that day very well. I think that this is one of those days. I mean, April 10th, 2010. That this is one of those days in the contemporary history of Poland that every Pole actually knows what he was doing exactly at the time he got to know that the plane crash took place.
Now,
And I remember also the atmosphere, right away, and it was
the
national mourning.
The atmosphere has been tense, has it not, when this topic comes up ever
Indeed.
since then. It's still a divisive topic. It's still sensitive to many people. Some seeing conspiracy being responsible for this crash. What is your view on that?
Well, it really is indeed a very complicated thing. Again, cutting long story short, I do believe that the most problematic thing is that it all happened in Russia, and President Lech Kaczyński was really known to be a very vocal opponent of Vladimir Putin and his imperial stance. For example, Lech Kaczyński was an instrumental politician in European scale to defend Georgia in 2008, and it was exactly the time when the invasion of Georgia by Russians took place. And the conspiracy, I think that the most important part of the conspiracy is that those were Russians who inflicted very intentionally this plane crash. There are no actual evidences that we can show to just prove that fact. But knowing the style of politics of Vladimir Putin, one can't totally rule out something
Right.
like this. After
Understood.
the murder of Skripal, for that matter, it's really easy to think that way. Yet, I really would like to stress that we don't have any actual proofs. So that's really
but international investigators were not allowed into the country in the early days after the crash anyway, so it's difficult to prove.
That's exactly one of the problems.
Przeperski, thank you very much indeed for sharing your analysis with our audience. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye. That's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Goodbye.